Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. At the mooring point, the process is still the same. After Xingchen completed the procedures for picking up the ship, he asked the younger brothers to pack the goods, and the suspension vehicle was also disassembled for loading. Of course, Xingchen had to get on the spaceship first, and put those boxes of spirit beast meat into the space of rhubarb. After everything was done, Xingchen set off immediately, and there was nothing to delay here. The most important thing was to go back and ship to make money. The flight back took half an hour longer than the time of arrival, which was due to the cargo. When we arrived at Amaya Star, it happened to be nightfall at the Budokan, and the stardust would not disturb Master Pafu's dream. So he drove the spaceship to the berth next to the dormitory, left Dang Dang on duty on the spaceship, and went to rest in the house by himself. Early the next morning, Xingchen was woken up by the noise of the car clearing away. This bark is full of hard work. Xingchen washed his face in the bathroom of his 857 room, and then asked De Huang to send a message to Pafu, informing him of his return. The reply from the uncle was very quick, saying that he would come over soon, and that he was waiting for Xingchen's goods today. Stardust went out and went to the spaceship. The spaceship was safe and sound under the guard of Dang Dang. There would be no trouble at all. This is the martial arts hall, no one would come here to cause trouble. Stardust asked Dang Dang to be on duty, mainly because he was afraid that some small animals or small beasts would come and cause damage. The uncle is coming soon, so Stardust will naturally unload the cargo from the spaceship first. It's still the old routine. Xingchen Xiaohua took down the suspension car and installed it, and then loaded the cargo on the spaceship to the car. Stardust still took out the goods in the rhubarb space on the spaceship, and then asked Dang Dang and the others to unload them. Although the goods were heavy this time, the number of boxes was not many, and the things were unloaded in a few minutes. At the moment, the suspension car is for the Budokan. There are 6 boxes of spirit beast meat and 20 boxes of spirit fruit. Xingchen's own goods were placed on the ground next to him. There were 2 boxes of spiritual fruits, 5 small bags of spiritual food, and 2 small boxes of spiritual animal meat. From a distance, I heard Uncle Pafu speeding over in a suspension car. The uncle is still so old and strong. Zingdust boy, you are back. The canteen is out of stock these 2 days. I went outside and bought several boxes of expensive spirit beast meat, but I paid a lot of lol for nothing. Master, it's not a high price, it's the market price. It's just that I have a discount when I sell it to you. If you don't give me a discount, it's a high-priced product. The military is the product you brought. Yes, sir. This time I brought 6 large boxes of spirit beast meat and 20 boxes of spirit fruits. My spaceship is small, so I can only bring so much. These few boxes of meat can't be eaten for a few days, and you have to go in again in 2 days. Okay, sir, just let me know if it's out of stock. I'll go buy it right away. Uncle Pafu turned his face and saw several boxes of goods beside him. What are these boxes for? This is something I bought by the way and prepared to eat by myself. You really enjoy it. What's in these 2 small boxes? Is it also spirit beast meat? Looks like the packaging is pretty good, it's the same as the box last time. It's also spirit beast meat, but there are more varieties. I'm going to taste more meat, so I prepared a few more. Really? There are more varieties than last time? Let me see. After finishing his speech, Uncle Pafu walked up to open 2 small boxes. Hey! You've prepared quite a lot of meat this time, so it's much more convenient to hold a banquet or something. Don't eat these 2 boxes of meat yourself, let me give them as gifts first. My grandson has successfully passed the ranks, and I am planning to hold a celebration banquet today, so there are so many varieties of spirit beast meat to make string beans. I forgot to tell you when you went to buy the goods this time, but I didn't expect you to have everything in stock. Master, I keep this for myself. If you are really useful, why don't you take a box and leave me a box? Hey! You boy, when will this spirit beast meat be unavailable? you have to wait for a day or two. Next time you go to buy 2 more boxes. It's not bad for me to use it for business. I'll give you the money, I'll see what hurts you. Master, last time I bought the spirit beast meat I ate, and you took it once. This time I bought 2 boxes, can you keep 1 box for me? You kid, if you want to eat spirit beast meat, you can go to the dining hall to eat it. You can order it there, and you can eat whatever you want. Leave these 2 boxes of meat to the uncle and me, just leave like this, and settle the score quickly. I have to send it to my grandson. Xingqian was a little speechless. What did he do with this spirit beast? He couldn't eat it after buying it twice. Come on, let's settle the accounts. Fortunately, the money is earned. This time, there are 6 large boxes of spirit beast meat. The market price on Amiya's side has dropped a bit compared to last time, about 431,000 boxes, and 10 boxes of rice is 258 fengla in total. The market price of 20 boxes of spiritual fruit here is 8,111 boxes, and the total of 20 boxes is 162,000 rals. The price of those 2 small boxes of spirit beast meat was about the same as last time, both were 31,000 boxes, and 2 boxes were worth 60,000 laras. All these goods add up to 2,800,000 rals, and the fraction of 2,000 is wiped out according to the old custom. Of course, there is an old rule that there is a discount of 3 points. After the 3 points discount of 2.8 million, it will be 2.716 million lar. Of course, the 6,000 rals and the stardust were also wiped off by the uncle. The uncle only needs to pay 2.71 million lars. The uncle didn't bother to talk, and paid the money directly. Xingqian also asked the younger brothers to quickly load the old man. Although the quantity of the goods this time is not too much, the value of the goods is not low. After the transaction was completed, the uncle also greeted him, and drove away in a hover car. It worked, and this time I made a lot of money. This time, Xingqian bought the goods at a cost of almost 1.93 million, and sold it to the uncle for 2.71 million, with a profit of 780,000 lail. It seems that the cost this time is high, and the 1.0 money earned is less than half of the cost, but because the capital is sufficient, the money earned is not less than the previous batch. After finishing this ticket, Stardust can rest for another 2 days. Xingqian asked Walla to move the spiritual fruit and spiritual food to the dormitory, and the spaceship was too lazy to keep people. Anyway, the door of the spaceship is closed tightly, and generally there will be no problems. After moving the things, Walla and Dang Dang felt very self-conscious about joining the team to clear the forest. Seeing the 2 little big brothers coming back, they also consciously gave up their positions. Dang Dang still drove the clearing vehicle as the main gunner to deal damage, while Walla and Balia drove 2 suspension vehicles to carry the enemy's wreckage to the other side of the lake. As a result, Stardust had nothing else to do. I learned the motion and stillness technique myself, and it just so happens that it will be fine, so let's practice it. Xingqian practiced the movement and stillness exercises in the open space for more than an hour, and when he turned his head, yes. Instructor Daika stood beside him for a long time. After seeing the instructor, Xingqian naturally greeted him politely. Instructor Daika also nodded, as a response. Boy Stardust, what moves did you practice before? You can practice to the Earth level, and you are on a planet with thin aura, so you should have relatively good exercises or something? Our side is mainly physical training, and then there is some offensive and defensive skills, nothing else. Then you have such strength, and you don't have any martial arts for self-defense. I'm afraid it will be difficult to wander among the stars. That's right, but I can't do anything if I don't come out to roam around. I can't stay at home and starve to death. I think you'd better sign up at the Budokan and study for a few years before going out. In this way, at least your chances of surviving will be higher. Instructor Daika, I also thought about finding a place to learn, but I heard you said about the various expenses here. With my current wealth, I am afraid that I will go bankrupt after studying for a year. So I pay 25 more money. Bar. Instructor Daika nodded after hearing this, and stopped continuing the topic. By the way, Stardust Kid, you're back. It should be the cargo. That guy Pafu came to pick up the cargo, right? Yes, I came back last night, because it was too late, so I only delivered the goods to Master Pafo this morning. That guy didn't say anything, right? The other student who used the vine treasure to climb the ladder yesterday also succeeded. Pafu stomped his feet angrily after hearing this. He came here today, didn't he say anything? The other guy didn't say anything, but his grandson was going to hold some kind of celebration banquet, and he bought 2 small boxes of spirit beast meat that I bought and ate, which made me run so far, but I didn't have anything to eat spirit beast meat. This guy is good at making troubles. Others only hold celebration banquets when they reach the 6th level. He is only at the 4th level. He is not afraid of shame. It is likely that someone else succeeded in the level and robbed his grandson. The limelight, that's why I thought of holding a banquet to overwhelm others. Maybe, fortunately, Master Pafa doesn't know where the vine treasure came from, or he might cause trouble for me. It's okay, when Tingbao sent it over, no one saw it, and those who knew the news were all tight-lipped, and they wouldn't find you. That's good. Instructor Daika, the 2 small boxes of spirit beast meat I brought back this time were originally intended to be made into meals for you to eat, but they were bought by Mr. Pafu, so I can only bring them next time. It's time for you to eat. It's okay, as long as you have the heart, you boy. It doesn't matter if you have 2 meals a day. Well, it's not a meal for 2, I bought 12 kinds of spirit beast meat, at least I can make a dozen meals without repeating the same. There are so many kinds? This old thing, Pafu, is so lacking, how can we do it like this? Really? I have to give him some eye drops if I have a chance later. Humph. Xingchen was speechless, these uncles all had a violent temper and were not very generous. I said, Stardust boy, you can find 2 vine treasures by the lake. Then can you find a few more elsewhere? Instructor Daika, there just happened to be there by the lake, and I dug it carefully after careful observation. I don't know where the vines grow well in other places. The rest of my life produces vine treasures. That's true. I know that there are many places in the depths of the mountains behind the Budokan where vines grow, but there are not only vines, but also all kinds of fierce beasts and birds, which are extremely difficult to deal with. In the past, the Budokan also organized a team to search for Fuji treasure among the best students. However, the harvest was not much each time, and the casualty rate was not small. The input and output were not equal. Later, no such arrangements were made. It's active. Is the depth of the mountains behind so terrifying? Those ferocious beasts won't come out to attack the Budokan, will they? That's not true. The reason why those fierce beasts are difficult to deal with is that the various plants and dense forests in the deep mountains are difficult to enter. The fierce beasts hide in them, and they suddenly jump out to hurt people from time to time. If they come to the martial arts hall, it is so empty. If there are dozens or hundreds of fierce beasts in a place, the students in the Budokan will be able to clean them up. Xingchen chatted with the Daika Academy, and asked his younger brother to wash 7 or 8 spiritual fruits and put them together into a small plate and bring them over. Instructor Daika, try it. This is the spiritual fruit I just brought back. It tastes pretty good. This kind of spiritual fruit is good. When you usually practice, eating a few more spiritual fruits will also be good for improving your strength. Really? Then I'll buy a few more boxes for later use. Instructor Daika ate the spirit fruit, and asked Xingchen to demonstrate the martial arts he had learned. As a result, Instructor Daika shook his head while watching. This is something that looks down on what Xingchen learned before. But Xingchen used to belong to the lower grades, so it's okay to learn these things. Instructor Daika and the others are at the undergraduate level. Martial arts and the like are stronger, as they should be. Seeing that the martial arts that Xingchen had learned were not very good, Instructor Daika told Xingchen not to practice them, as they were of little use. Then Instructor Daika chose a set of basic exercises and moves that are more common in EMEA, and taught them to Shinchan to practice. This kind of basic exercise is popular, but it is very useful for students with low foundation. Stardust didn't have the basis of exercises originally, so he had to learn this first. After teaching the exercises, Instructor Daika asked Shinchan which weapon he chose. In terms of weapons, Stardust actually doesn't have any preference. He has used guns and knives before. The main thing is to use it smoothly, whichever has the highest damage. When Shinchan saw that the instructor asked about weapons, he took out the guns and knives he had used before. When he came out of the Waste Star, he brought these two things with him, but he never used them, so they were all in the spaceship. In a little corner. When Instructor Daika saw Stardust's weapon, he shook his head again. This weapon is just a piece of metal. When it reaches the earth level or above, this thing is not very useful. It will be shattered when someone touches it with a weapon. You will have to get another earth-level power box later. Oh. Okay, how much is the general knife used by the prefecture level? Low-level prefecture level ones range from a few 100,000 to 700,000 or 800,000, prefecture level mid-level ones are higher, and millions or even tens of millions are available, depending on how big your wallet is. Okay, I'll buy a low-level one and use it first when I have time, and let's talk about the high-level one when I get stronger. If you want to practice swordsmanship, tomorrow I will teach you a set of basic swordsmanship. You practice first, and when you have a certain level of proficiency, I have more advanced swordsmanship. Advanced swordsmanship, if you lay a good foundation and practice directly, you will hit your muscles. Then thank you, the instructor. When I buy it later, I will buy a few more boxes of spirit beast meat, and ask the instructor to taste it. Well. You have a conscience. I didn't teach you in vain, instructor. After Shinchan got a good grasp of the exercises, Instructor Daika asked Shinchan to practice physical fitness first, that is, to practice various basic movements and moves over and over again. This practice went into the night. Instructor Daika invited Shinchan to another meal. In the words of Instructor Daika, Shinchan will buy more than a dozen kinds of spirit beast meat to treat guests in the future. If he doesn't treat guests now, he will have no chance to treat them in the future. After dinner, Shinchan went back to the dormitory. It wasn't very interesting to stay here, and he didn't have a mobile phone or a good network, so he couldn't sit idle. When he was bored, Shinchan noticed that the area of plant forest cleared by the younger brothers these days was not small, so he planned to make a patrol to see how much area of plant forest still needs to be cleared. This inspection does not matter, Rhubarb found another vine treasure. The dormitory that Shinchan lives in can be regarded as the periphery of the entire dormitory area, which is close to the side of the mountain. From Shinchan's courtyard to the outside, there is a stone floor of about 30 meters, all of which are paved with large stone slabs. As a result of the cleaning by the younger brothers in the past few days, there are no traces of vines on most of the stone slabs, and even a large area of dirt on the outside of the stone slabs has been cleaned up. Those vines in the past took root from the side of the mud and grew vines, and then spread all the way to the dormitory area. Although they can't take root on the stone slab, these vines are not afraid of this, as long as there are enough vines hovering on the slate. In rainy days, enough water and dust can be stored, which can bring nutrients for the growth of vines. Now that the little brothers of Shinchan have cleared away the vines on the slate, we have to come and see where the vines on the muddy ground take root, where are the denser ones, and where they need to be cleared intensively. Shinchan went out in a levitating vehicle that rattled away, and first took a look at the dormitory area. The vines here have been cleared well, except for some fish that slipped through the net in some edge areas, and some cut-off vines and plants in the yards of some dormitories, and other areas basically all stripped. After leaving the dormitory area, besides the slate floors, they cleared out of 400 to 500 square meters of dirt. Although the vines here are relatively thick, they are obviously not as thick as the ones in the lake. Looking at the thickness of the vines, it seems that someone has cleared this side before, and the vines extending from farther away have been cut off and removed, and the vines that grew out later are not so thick. Going out from the mud cleared here, there are thicker vines. The other plants here are not so vigorous, but the vines grow stronger and stronger. Stardust looked into the distance, and farther away was a hill 400 to 500 meters away. There were various plants densely covered there, not only the vines growing amazingly, but also various other plants, all of which were not young and not too old. If you know what kind of plant it is, you can compete with this kind of ground-growing vine. Xingchen saw that various plants were denser in the distance, so he asked Hua La to drive the hover car over to have a look. This area of a few hundred meters is covered with vines and various plants that grow in every stitch. Looking back, I really have to look up the introduction of various plants on Amiya. There are so many varieties, I am afraid that there are many edible spirit grasses and the like, and I can pick them later to cook with spirit beast meat. While patrolling, De Huang said, "Master, there is a low-lying land in front, and there is a particularly thick vine inside, and a vine treasure grows at the root of it, but this vine treasure is a bit small, not as big as last time. Those 2 mushrooms are half the size." Huh? Found another vine treasure? This is a good thing. I have to go and have a look. Xingchen asked Hua La to drive the car to the location De Huang said. This side is indeed a depression, but the area here is not large, only about 200 square meters in size, and the lowest point is only 2 meters deep, but you can't see the depth of the depression, because there is a long full of vines. Those vines have already covered the entire depression, and the thick vines are still stacked together to form a solid structure the size of several rooms. But maybe there is not so much fertilizer, so there is no huge mountain structure here. In addition to the vines growing in this depression, there are more than a dozen thick vines extending 200 to 300 meters away from here, almost covering the open space of tens of acres. The scale of this vine is not small. If there is a chance, it must be removed. Otherwise, with such a large growth area, the energy reserve must be very strong. It will grow out in a few days. But this is not a question of whether to clean it up or not, but that this vine has grown a vine treasure in the depression. Although this thing is a bit small, maybe someone will want it. Xingchen decided to tell the Daika instructor about the vine treasure here tomorrow. If someone from the instructor wants this smaller vine treasure, then Xingchen will arrange for the younger brothers to fetch the vine treasure and sell it. After all, this is also Tingbao, 700,000 or 800,000 can't be sold, 200,000 or 300,000 is always worth it. This money is the same as picking it up, but it's just a matter of hours for the younger brothers. After thinking about this matter, Xingchen looked around again, but found nothing else. It's not bad that one vine treasure can be produced in this area, so don't expect to find several treasures. The people in the Budokan over there are not blind either. If this rattan treasure is so easy to find and get, no one would spend hundreds of thousands of lars. Alright, go back and rest. Have a good night's sleep. The next day, Xingchen got up, washed up, and went to the open space outside the dormitory, and began to practice the 18 moves of static exercises. Of course, Stardust's younger brothers thought they were going to clean up the plant forest. Xingchen practiced for 2 hours. In addition to practicing the static and dynamic exercises, he began to practice the basic exercises and moves learned yesterday. While practicing, the Daika Academy came over again. The instructor usually doesn't know what his work and rest time is, and he will only appear around this point every day. Instructor Daika watched Xingchen practice for a while, and when he saw what was wrong, he also gave advice. After Xingchen practiced the basic skills and moves for a round, Instructor Daika stopped Xingchen and prepared to teach him the basic sword skills. Xingchen wants to learn sword skills, but he still needs to tell the instructor about discovering Tingbao yesterday. That rattan treasure is in the open space behind the dormitory, although no one has noticed it for so long, and it may not be noticed for a while. But not afraid of 10,000, just in case, who knows who will pass by there, suddenly notices that the vine grows better, digs it casually, and this vine treasure will become someone else's. So when it comes to discovering Tingbao, it is better to talk about digging first. After hearing what Shinchan said, Instructor Daika was quite surprised to find another vine treasure. It is usually extremely difficult to find one when searching for rattan treasures. But now in the Budokan, it is a bit ironic to find Tingbao appearing one after another. Daika didn't quite believe that there were actually 3 vine treasures growing in the Budokan, so Shinchan had to take Daika's school to take a look at the scene. Seeing that the vines in that depression were really unusual, the Daika church was a little convinced. Of course, there is also a more credible method, that is to dig out this vine treasure directly, and if you see it with the naked eye, it must be real. However, as long as this vine treasure is excavated, the energy and activity inside will start to be lost, so it is better for the instructor of Daika to find a good buyer first, and then excavate the vine treasure. This time the buyer was found more smoothly. There were probably 2 examples of using Fujibao to advance smoothly, so it took less than 5 minutes for the instructor Daika to find a student who was willing to spend money. Of course, Shinchan also asked Daika's instructor to confess that this time Fujibao is relatively small. But the buyer is quite satisfied, because the price of the small-sized Tingbao is also low. With the money on hand, it is more suitable to buy the small-sized one. Well, this student was lucky. Qian Xiao happened to meet a small rattan treasure, which was just right for him. Now that there is a buyer, Stardust will not delay any longer. Greeted the younger brothers from a distance, gave an order, and the 3 younger brothers started work. The vines here are far less thick than those by the lake, so after 10 minutes, Dang Dang opened a big hole directly to the location of the vine treasure. Because the big hole was on the main vine of the vine treasure also began to lose energy. But now that the vine treasure has been exposed, Dang Dang drove the removal vehicle and cut the vine treasure directly from the main vine, and it didn't take much time. Another 8 minutes passed, and Tingbao arrived. Shinchan asked Hua La to drive Tingbao and Daika instructor back to the dormitory, where Daika instructor would use his own suspension vehicle to send Tingbao there. Of course, the coverings that should be on the rattan treasure are also tightly covered, so as not to show the horse's feet. Done the same thing again. But to Stardust, this is just a small business. Next, the cultivation of Stardust is still going on. Now he has learned more basic martial arts, and he needs to spend more time practicing them. This practice lasted until the afternoon. Instructor Daika didn't come back until late in the evening. According to him, the student who bought the rattan treasure didn't know how to use it, and he wasn't ready at 10 o'clock. After this vine treasure was brought over, that student was in a hurry. It was because Daika instructor 577 borrowed some resources from other students to give him some resources, so that this student could use Ting treasure to rush to the steps in time. Of course, the problem after the Tingbao is sold is none of Shinchan's business, he just needs to charge the selling price of the Tingbao of 300,000 lars. This time, Tingbao is much smaller, so instructor Daika only assessed the selling price of 300,000 rals. When instructor Daika came over, he also brought money, which happened to be enough to buy a large box of spirit beast meat. Of course, Shinchan didn't lack the capital to sell spirit beast meat now. Next, instructor Daika was still pointing out Shinchan's various incorrect postures and methods of exercising qi during cultivation. When it was time for dinner, instructor Daika still invited Shinchan to dinner. This time it was to thank him for finding another Fuji treasure. Stardust has eaten so many times, so this time is not bad. After dinner, Shinchan was doing some less intense exercise in the open area of the dormitory to digest his food. At this time Uncle Paffa rushed over again. After getting out of the car, Master Paffa said to Shinchan, "Boy Shinchan, I've been resting for 2 days now. It's time to stock up. The restaurant doesn't have too much spirit beast meat in stock. You should go earlier this time. To avoid the shortage here, you have to go to the market to buy high-priced ones." "Okay, then I'll leave at night. Is it still the main spirit beast meat this time?" "Damn, spirit beast meat has been sold very fast recently, and the price of this thing is high. If there is no discount from outside, the cost will be high. You should bring back 6 large boxes this time, and the spirit fruits will still be enough." Okay, sir, do you still want the little spirit beast meat? If you want it, I'll bring 2 more boxes back directly this time. Okay, that kind of small box is pretty good, give me 2 whole boxes. Success, then I'll bring you 2 small boxes. I'll leave at night, so as not to waste time. After Master Pafu gave Shinchan instructions, he drove away. Stardust still arranged for 2 robots to guard the portal, and then stayed behind in the dormitory, taking them out to clear the plant forest during the day. Dang Dang and Walla followed themselves to buy goods. It was still 12 hours on the road this time, and it was nearly noon when Shinchan arrived on Duolin Xing. This noon refers to the area where the trade fair is held at noon. It was daytime right now, so there was no need to find a place next to the hotel. Shinchan asked Hua La to assemble the suspension car, and then took the younger brother to the trading area by car. Because the official exhibition here has ended, most of the merchants from all over the world have returned to their own planets, but the merchants here are still selling products in their respective shops. Shinchan still looked for spirit beast meat from that shop last time. Of course he was looking for the same receptionist as before. This time the reception met Shinchan, and the enthusiasm was a little bit more. But no matter how enthusiastic he was, Shinchan would not buy a few more boxes of meat. The capital was enough, but the spaceship was too small to transport it. Not long after, the transaction of the 6 large boxes of spirit beast meat was completed. The price this time was the same as last time, not cheaper again, but it didn't matter to Shinchan. His profit was quite high, and there was not much difference whether there was a discount or not. Coming out of this shop, Shinchan found another shop that sold small boxes of spirit beast meat. It's still the same process here. But the small box of meat that Shinchan bought was not only the 2 small boxes of spirit beast meat that Uncle Pafu wanted, he bought a total of 6 small boxes of assembled spirit beast meat. Through these 2 encounters with the small box of spirit beast meat, Shinchan could see that if he bought too little of this small box of spirit beast meat, he would only buy the 2 boxes that the uncle wanted plus the 2 boxes he wanted, making a total of 4 boxes. I am afraid that if he goes back to Amiya, he still won't be able to get a box. I'm afraid the uncle will find a reason to buy the small box of meat. So this time, Shinchan bought 6 boxes directly, and now even if the uncle wants more, he can still keep 2 boxes of meat to eat by himself. The next step is to buy spiritual fruit, the same procedure. 20 boxes of spiritual fruit are needed by the martial arts hall. Shinchan bought another box of spiritual fruit. The last time the spiritual fruit has not been eaten, so he will not buy more. This time, the spiritual fruit that Shinchan ate himself bought a different variety, and he also wanted to change the taste. After Shinchan collected the goods, he also returned along a passage he hadn't passed through before, and then he saw a shop selling spirit tea. This store is relatively small, and it doesn't look very eye-catching, and Shinchan discovered it by accident. Spirit tea is also a good thing. Stardust walked into the shop. The entire shop is only 200 to 300 square meters in size, which is pitifully small compared to the tens of thousands of square meters of the shops here. There were only 4 or 5 receptionists in the store, and when Shinchan came in, one of them hurried forward to say hello. Shinchan looked around. There were a lot of boxed goods in the store, and the total number didn't seem to be too many. Such a small number of goods couldn't be compared with the goods outside that sold for tens of hundreds of cars. However, he only wanted to buy some spiritual tea for himself when he entered this shop, and it had nothing to do with him how much other people had. The receptionist introduced many types of spiritual tea to Shinchan, the brewing methods and utensils of various spiritual teas, etc. Shinchan listened to a lot and couldn't remember the contents, but Rhubarb had written it all down. Just look back at the notes. After carefully comparing the differences of the various spirit teas, Shinchan picked out 5 kinds of spirit tea, and bought 1 box of one. These spiritual teas are not too expensive, a box of about 10,000 rals, and the weight is about half of the weight of the spiritual fruit box. Judging from the weight, this thing is indeed a bit expensive, but this thing does not use much each time it is brewed. Such a box can last for a long time. On average, it is acceptable. After buying the spirit tea, Shinchan returned to the spaceship. Loading is also a skillful job. After a while, Shinchan packed up the goods and set off to return. It was the afternoon at the Budokan when I returned to Amaya Star this time, and Shinchan reckoned that it was almost time for dinner at this point. Uncle Pafu probably didn't go to bed so early, so let's send him a message first to see if he is free to come and receive the goods. Stardust parked the spaceship, and Rhubarb had already sent a message. The next step is to unload the suspension car and assemble it first, and wait for the reply from the uncle to see if he will come to receive the goods today. After waiting for a while, the news didn't come, but Inyi drove over directly. Now that the old man came over, Shinchan started to unload the cargo. This time he didn't put it on the small suspension car, but put it on the ground first. Anyway, he had to load it on the old man's car later. The uncle was not in a hurry, he just watched Shinchan busy. In 2 or 3 minutes, all the goods had been unloaded on the ground. The uncle wanted 6 large boxes of spirit beast meat, 20 boxes of spirit fruit, and 2 other small boxes of matching spirit beast meat. In addition, Shinchan brought a box of spirit fruit, 2 small boxes of spirit beast meat, and 5 boxes of spirit tea. There were also 2 small boxes of matching spirit beast meat, and Shinchan didn't take it down. Given that Uncle Pafu has a habit of buying this kind of small box of spirit beast meat, it's better for Shinchan to be on guard this time. Uncle Pafu checked the condition of several goods, and nodded, "Boy Stardust, every time you buy the goods, you pick them well. Whether it's meat or spiritual fruit, there's nothing to say about the quality." "That's right, sir, I'm buying a small quantity, so the selection is relatively small. If I buy hundreds of boxes each time, I won't be able to pick them." "That's true. If there are too many things, there will always be some bad ones mixed in." The uncle looked at the goods that Shinchan brought. "What did you buy in these small boxes? Did you eat it yourself?" "These 5 boxes are all tea leaves, 5 different kinds of tea leaves. I thought that drinking plain water would be tasteless, and buying those spiritual juices would cost too much money, so I picked a few boxes of spiritual teas and brewed them for drinking." "You buy spiritual tea on Duolinxing?" "There are meat sellers there, and spiritual tea is not well known. If you want good spiritual tea, you have to go to Shilin to buy it. It is famous for its special tea cultivation there." "I haven't been to Shilin either. How do I know that the spirit tea there is good? I drink these boxes by myself, and I don't care if it's better or worse." "Well, let me see, the packaging of these boxes of spiritual tea is not bad. I wonder how the tea inside is." After saying that, Uncle Pafu opened a few boxes of spirit tea. The varieties of these several boxes of spiritual tea are different. Some are green in color, some are light green in color, and some are slightly reddish. The uncle picked up several kinds of spiritual tea leaves and put them in the palm of his hand to smell them separately. The quality of these spirit teas is quite good, and the tea fragrance is very positive." "Really? I haven't drunk spirit tea, so I don't know, but these few boxes of spirit tea I picked are all higher-priced varieties, which should be considered good tea. The quality of these boxes of spiritual tea you have is good, and the packaging is also very delicate, which is very suitable for gift-giving. So, you have 5 boxes of spiritual tea, and you can't finish them, so let me give you 4 boxes. I just happened to give it as a gift. In addition, don't eat your 2 small boxes of spirit beast meat, but give them to me. I use these 4 boxes of spirit beast meat and 4 boxes of spirit tea to make up 4 gifts. These 4 gifts are all for important relatives. I couldn't find anything else for a while. The ones you brought are just right. It's luck. Stardust." What I said, I knew that Uncle Pafu had to play some tricks. This guy is addicted to touching my small box of spirit beast meat, and he has to do it every time. "Master, didn't you ask for 2 small boxes of spirit beast meat as a gift? Why do you want 2 more boxes? If I knew I would have brought 2 more boxes, I would have nothing to eat if you took them away." "Hey, you kid, you're quite an adult, why are you still so hungry for meat? There's plenty of meat in the dining hall, and there are so many tricks. You just go and eat it. That's why I was notified to buy these 4 gifts, otherwise I told you in advance." You kid is too long-winded to do business. Isn't it just to buy you a few boxes of meat? You just need to bring a few more boxes next time. You are the same. If you have to keep it tight, just bring these few boxes, which are just enough for me to give as gifts. I want to buy 2 boxes to take back to eat, but there is no stock. After listening to the old man's words, Xingchen thought to himself that it's my fault that I didn't take out those 2 small boxes of meat, otherwise he would have to let the old man buy it. It is said that these goods have made money, but it is a strange thing that they have nothing to eat when they bring the goods. Fortunately, this time I had the foresight to buy 2 more boxes of meat, otherwise I would have to go to the cafeteria to eat. Okay. Next time you buy more goods, just bring more. These goods should be settled quickly. I have to put the goods in the warehouse before the restaurant is full. Okay, I'll hurry up and settle the accounts. Anyway, the uncle has ordered everything, and Xingchen can't force him to stay. He is a big customer, and he can't afford to offend him. Moreover, I have kept 2 boxes of spirit beast meat, which should be enough to eat, and there is also a box of spirit tea. Drinking it for a month is not a big problem, at most it has a single taste. Thinking about it this way, Xingchen didn't feel so uncomfortable. The goods this time were about the same as last time, except for 2 small boxes of spirit beast meat and 4 boxes of spirit tea. The total price of the goods was 2,930,000 rals, which also wiped some of the country's head. Give the uncle a 3-point discount, which is 2.84 million lars, and the rest of the change is also wiped out. Uncle Pafu was still so straightforward and paid the money directly. Stardust also arranged for the little brothers to load the car. After the handover here, the uncle greeted and drove away quickly. Stardust heaved a sigh of relief and got another 800,000 rals. Now Xingchen can be regarded as a small rich man. These few times of business, plus the sale of 3 rattan treasures, made his assets directly reach more than 4 million lars. If Xingchen had left the junk star, Xingchen wouldn't have dared to think that he could actually make so much money. However, how much money is just an external object, and one's own strength is the most important thing. Without the backing of strength, no matter how much money one earns, one is afraid that if something unexpected happens, all one's own money will become someone else's wealth. Dang Dang and Walla finished loading the goods, and sent the things that belonged to Stardust on the ground to the dormitory. Seeing that Xingchen didn't have any other orders, they drove to the place where the vegetation was cleared and became cleaners. Xingchen wanted to stop them and let them rest for a while. After all, it was getting late, and work should be over in a while, but on second thought, robots don't have any idea of fishing, even if there is only 1 person left. Minutes of work, they will finish before leaving. Thinking of this, Xingchen let them go. Instead of thinking about letting them rest for a while, it is better to think about how to replace them with new accessories and limbs. Dang Dang and Walla were robots that were assembled at the waste star. Although they changed some parts later, they still used second-hand goods. Now Stardust has also made a lot of money, and almost all the important parts of the spaceship have been replaced with brand new ones. These robot boys usually work hard, and now it's their turn to get them some new goods. Xingchen was in a daze thinking about something, when the Daika Academy next to him called him, "Boy Xingchen, why are you in a daze here? It's a waste of time not to practice exercises and moves when you have time." Instructor Daika, I just came back from delivering the goods. It's been less than 5 minutes since Master Pafu took the goods away. Let me take a break too. Oh. I just came back, it will take some wind to make it happen, let's go. The instructor treats you to a good meal. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. Just after Stardust came back to hand over the goods, Instructor Daika ran over to treat the guests again. From the looks of it, this guy mainly wants to find someone to have dinner with, but he still thinks of various names to invite him every day. But Xingchen brought 2 boxes of spirit beast meat this time, and when he goes back to learn how to cook, he can ask the instructor Daika to rub it for a good meal. Now that he was able to return the invitation, Xingchen was not so stingy, and went to the dining hall with instructor Daika. Xingchen still eats the spirit meal of 1,500 reals now, but this time it should be different kinds of spirit beast meat, so he won't get tired of eating it. After dinner, when Xingchen and instructor Daika went back to the dormitory, he heard him talk about something. It is just recently that 3 rattan treasures have been released in a row, allowing 3 students to successfully pass the ranks. This matter has attracted more attention from the students in the Budokan. A few students with strong connections found out that 2 of the 3 Vine 203 treasures were obtained by the instructor Daika, which immediately pushed the instructor Daika into the limelight. Now several students have come to instructor Daika through their connections, and want to buy another treasure to go to the next step. But instructor Daika doesn't have that stuff. Those 2 Vine treasures were obtained from Xingchen, and he has nowhere to look for them. Moreover, instructor Daika also knew that these 3 Vine treasures were all dug out by Xingchen from the large open space in the Budokan, and it would be useless to dig another one. So the instructor directly refused. But some students have wild relationships. For example, there is a student who is a junior of a retired instructor in the dormitory area, and they are relatively close. This time, the retired instructor also came to ask for help. Rejected. Another student also invited a character that the Daika instructor could not directly refuse. Now that this matter is causing trouble, instructor Daika is also difficult to deal with, so he will come to Xingchen to find a solution. After listening to instructor Daika's words, Xingchen couldn't imagine. Tingbao is not so easy to find, otherwise everyone would go outside to look for it. Who would pay for it? This time, there are 3 rattan treasures in the Budokan, and it is also a benefit that has been accumulated for decades. Now this benefit has been dug out by Stardust, allowing the 3 students to successfully pass the ranks. If you want such an opportunity to appear again, you may have to wait for some years. In fact, instructor Daika also knew about this situation. After all, the 3 rattan treasures were all dug out in front of his eyes. He knew more about the inside story than others. It's just that the 2 recruited this time are not very easy to refuse, and the instructor Daika can only think hard about recruiting. Instructor Daika saw that there was no way for Xingchen to find Tingbao, so he could only talk about the method he came up with. The way is to look outside. In fact, this method is the same as not saying anything. It's not in the Budokan, so you have to look outside. But the outside world is getting bigger, and most of the ordinary places are owned by owners. Each family is usually noticed by someone, and there are easy to dig, others will not keep it for you. There are those that are not very easy to dig, you go to dig them out, that is someone else's territory, and it is not so easy for you to take it away. Most of those unowned places are areas that are difficult to enter, like the mountains behind the Budokan. There are countless beasts and raptors in the mountains. Stardust listened to instructor Daika's thoughts, even though he had eaten a few free meals from him recently, and his mouth was short, he could only wave his hands and say, "Instructor, look at me with my strength. If you want to go to the mountains to find rattan treasures and dig them out to sell, you are too high to look at me. Not to mention searching in the deep mountains, even in the outer areas of the mountains, I think it is dangerous to enter. Of course I know your strength, but this time I'm going to find Tingbao. It's not for you to take risks alone. I discussed with several instructors. This time, the Budokan will lead the team, and the students who need the treasure will contribute to form a search team. This team is led by 5 experienced instructors, and the few funded students can organize more than 30 second and third-tier students at the prefectural level to join. With such strength, as long as they don't enter particularly dangerous areas, they can be safe. It's not a big problem. I'm here to find you right now, and I just want you to go with me. You have some experience in finding Tingbao, and if you act with the team, the chances of finding Tingbao will naturally be higher. Of course I didn't let you go for nothing. If you find a rattan treasure, I'll give you 300,000 rals as a reward. What do you think? 300,000 rals, not much. Now that Xingchen goes out to deliver goods, it only takes about 2 days to get 800,000 rals. If you agree to look for Tingbao, let's not say if you can't find it, I'm afraid it will take a few days to go, the income is not worthwhile compared with the time wasted. Moreover, going to the mountains is not as simple as digging for vine treasures in the martial arts gym. Various dangers may appear suddenly. Thinking about it this way, Xingchen didn't want to go. But before he could refuse, Instructor Daika saw what he meant, and immediately said in a loud voice, "You boy, you just went to the mountains to find something, why do you look reluctant? Instructor, I invite you those who have eaten several spiritual meals, won't you give me this bit of face?" Xingchen said in his heart, "I know you have invited me to a few meals, but I also bought a small box of spirit beast meat, and I plan to invite you back, and I didn't want to eat your meal for nothing." The villain is the same. But before Xingchen wanted to explain, Instructor Daika put out one reason after another, persuading Xingchen to join the search team in different ways. This persuasion made Xingchen's head hurt. "Hey! Let's go then, I've eaten other people's meals in vain, it's really not free, you can't take advantage of it." For these few spiritual meals that cost less than tens of thousands, Xingchen had to risk his life to join the search team, but it was not worth it. But the rice has already been eaten in the stomach, and if you want to return it to others, others will not ask for it. Seeing that Xingchen agreed, Instructor Daika also heaved a sigh of relief, although it may be easy for these people to organize, but the real difficulty is to find the location of Tingbao. Such a large group of people went to the mountains, 0.4, without the guidance of experienced people like Xingchen. The chance of finding Tingbao is very slim. The chances of finding Tingbao are small, so go around more places and spend more time visiting me. But in this way, the chance of encountering danger in the mountains will be even greater. With such a large group of people, it will be difficult to explain to the family if anyone is injured. Now that Xingchen agrees to go together, it is much easier to find the treasure, and he can find the needed vine treasure in as little time as possible. Instructor Daika made an appointment with Xingchen. Tomorrow, about 9 o'clock after sunrise, they will gather in the dormitory area here, and then set off to hunt for treasure together. Xingchen nodded, and went back to the dormitory. "I'm not in the mood for activities today, so I'd better have a good rest and prepare for tomorrow's adventure." Xingchen had a good night's rest, and when he woke up the next day, he was full of energy, but then he had to go wandering in the mountains. Xingchen was still a little worried. "I don't know the way to go out this time, Xingchen's weapons haven't arrived yet, so I can only make up the number with the previous knives and guns. If you want to go to the mountains, you don't know whether to walk directly into the mountains or take a suspension car." Yesterday, the Instructor Daika didn't make it clear, which also made it difficult for Xingchen to arrange. But after Xingchen washed up, he waited outside the dormitory for a while, before the others arrived. When the appointment time came, Instructor Daika also came out of the dormitory, and another old instructor came out from another dormitory. These 10 were probably the ones that Tadaka's godmother helped. There are more than 40 people gathered here in the dormitory area, unlike the 30 or so students, plus 5 instructors that Daika instructor said. In addition to about 30 young students, there were also a dozen or so older monks, and their clothes didn't look like people from the Budokan. Seeing that everyone was almost there, some instructors at the 25th position began to form a team. Instructor Daika didn't care about that side, and came to Stardust with another old instructor. "Stardust boy, why did you come out with a broken blade? This thing is useless." "Instructor Daika, I didn't come here to buy weapons urgently, so I can only make do with this. This blade of yours is not very useful, so don't bring it with you. I'll find you a common knife first, and return it to me after you buy the weapon later." Having said that, Instructor Daika went back to the dormitory and took out a common-looking knife. This knife is said to be common, but judging by the material of the blade, it is much better than Stardust's blade. Xingchen didn't talk nonsense, but it was just for temporary use, and it wasn't a particularly expensive item, so he reached out and took it and carried it behind his back. Instructor Daika introduced the name of the instructor next to him to Xingchen. The old instructor who lived in the same dormitory area was named Qi Luan, and it was the first time Xingchen saw him. Probably Xingchen hasn't stayed here long enough. Of the several instructors living here, Xingchen has only met Daika, and this instructor, Jieluan, just met today. Stardust greeted the other party. Then Instructor Daika introduced the situation to Xingchen. There are quite a lot of people going to the mountains today, including 5 full-time instructors, 2 retired instructors, 30 students, and 11 bodyguards brought by the students. In view of the relatively large number of people this time, they were divided into 2 search teams. Instructors Daika and Qiluan are voluntary to help, so they form a team with the other 2 full-time instructors. This team has 2 full-time instructors, 2 retired instructors, 13 students, for attendance, and 1 Xingchen. The other group of students had more followers, but the relationship with Instructor Daika was not close enough, and Xingchen didn't care about him. This time I did not go into the mountain by walking. The forest here is not very easy to enter. The plants are too tall and dense, so everyone enters the mountain by suspension vehicle. The speed is fast, the forward and backward are faster, and the safety is better. Secondly, there is a suspension vehicle, and more supplies are carried, so that you don't have to suffer in the mountains. In addition, this time I was looking for tingbao. These things are quite large, and once they are dug out, they will start to lose energy, so they must be used as soon as possible. If someone carries them out of the mountain, I'm afraid that, when they return to the Budokan, the energy inside will almost flow. Seeing that Xingchen could bring the levitation car into the mountains, he let Hua La drive the big levitation car. The speed of the large suspension vehicle is fast enough and the load capacity is large, so it is naturally the best choice for entering the mountain. Xingchen asked Daika for his opinion, and asked Dang Dang to install a professional cleaning vehicle into the suspension vehicle. It is not allowed to use this thing in the mountains. The students over there also borrowed 3 cleaning vehicles from unknown places, and they were also mounted on suspension vehicles to be taken into the mountains. It takes a lot of work to go into the mountains, so Xingchen brought 3 powerful little brothers with him. All 3 robots got on the suspension vehicle and drove with a splash, while the other 2 were on standby. In addition to these personnel, those students also brought a few robots as assistants, but depending on the situation, those robots were mainly for coolies. After the people here have assembled, there is no one who is the leader, so there is no need to shout slogans or say something like departure, and they set off directly. Xingchen originally wanted to go on his own suspension vehicle, but Daika instructor took him to ride on the instructor's own passenger and cargo suspension vehicle. The one over there was more comfortable. In addition, there are 2 masters who are not bad in the instructor's car, and the safety is better, so Xingchen sat on it. Then let Hua La and the others move with the car. There is no risk at the beginning of entering the mountain, and there is not much danger on the outskirts of the mountain. However, because the danger was not great, the vines in the outer area were frequently searched and excavated, leaving no good news. Instructor Daika's team crossed this area and headed directly deeper. Of course, the other team did the same, but they chose another way to enter the mountain, at least tens of kilometers away from here. Along the way, Xingchen also asked Da Huang to be careful of dangerous situations. If there are any powerful beasts, report them in advance, lest Xingchen be weak and run slowly, and don't be shot to death by the beasts in the mountains. Fortunately, along the way of Da Huang's investigation, all the less powerful beasts appeared one after another, and there were also some winged flying beasts, but the numbers were not many, and they did not bring any danger to this small team of 117 monks. Rhubarb along this road is also a place where more attention is paid to the growth of vines, but the vines here are not known to be suppressed by other plants or animals, and they have not grown very vigorously, so naturally there will be no vines. If there is no harvest, naturally we have to go to the deep mountains. The team consisted of 22 people, and they drove a total of 8 suspension vehicles out. Along the way, these 8 vehicles moved forward side by side, with a distance of 70 to 80 meters between each vehicle, in order to search for larger objects. Area. During the period, I also found some relatively large vines, but when Instructor Daika drove the car over, Xingchen took a look and shook his head directly. The vines here are really not very thick. Probably the instructor of Daika watched the scene where the 3 vine treasures were opened, and had some experience in the conditions for the growth of vine treasures, so these vines are only as thick as a bucket, and it is unlikely that they will bear vine treasures. Instructor Daika also told everyone to report when they found thicker vines, and stop talking about these small things. Those students are not very familiar with vine treasures, so it is even more impossible to know how thick the vines are to bear vine treasures. This time, after listening to the instructor Daika, they know that not all vines can bear vine treasures. Next, the students began to pay attention to the thicker vines. The whole team marched towards the deep mountain again. This time the speed was faster, because the thinner vines were skipped directly. After traveling for more than 30 kilometers, this is already a long way in the mountains, but most of the places passed by do not have too thick vines. The people in the team were not too anxious, and probably knew that the vines were not so easy to find. The old instructor Chi Luan has also participated in the search for Tingbao several times. Generally, the target may not be found after several days of searching. This time it took less than half a day to come out. It is normal to not find anything. Stardust is the most leisurely person in the whole team. He doesn't have to stare at the vines outside. These jobs are done by Rhubarb. He can just look at the scenery outside when he has nothing to do. But to be honest, there is nothing to see here. The mountains are full of various plants, and even the stones on the mountains are invisible, and they are all covered by various plants. Maybe there are small streams and rivers in the mountain canyons, but because there is enough water near the streams, all kinds of vines grow more vigorously, directly covering the sky above the streams. There is no shadow of the stream. It's the same everywhere, making Xingchen extremely boring. There is nowhere to look if he wants to see a scene. When passing through a valley on the way, everyone made some discoveries. The vines in this valley are growing very vigorously, but some of the thicker vines have been cut off by someone, because someone came a step earlier and cut vines everywhere in search of vine treasures, resulting in few good vines here. At the same time, the instructor asked the team to stop here, and then led the students to observe around the vines. What the instructor meant was that thick vines like this should grow vine treasures. Although they have been taken away now, it can also give everyone more experience in finding Shuebao. Xingchen and instructor Daika also got out of the car. Although he doesn't need to gain any experience, he still needs to get out of the car for a while after riding for a long time. It should have been several months since the vines here were cut off, and many small vines grew out of the cuts. Xingchen walked tens of meters and looked around, but Rhubarb found something. Master, there are vine treasures growing under the vines over there, but the energy inside has almost been lost. It should be that the vines have been cut too much, and the energy in the vine treasures has flowed out to repair the wound. Huh? The group of people in front cut down so many vines, but they couldn't find the location of the vine treasure. This is bad enough luck. Xingchen came to the location that Rhubarb said and took a look. This is a low-lying river valley, and the ground is full of various big rocks. Of course, the rocks are invisible to the naked eye now, and they are all covered by various plants. Among several large stones, there is a space, which is a space surrounded by several large stones. Originally, this vine grew from here. The main vine grew thick, and after stacking layers, this gap was also filled. That vine treasure grows in this gap. Originally, this vine treasure was quite big. Although it is not as big as the two vine treasures grown in the Vine Mountain, the quality is also very good. But at this time, due to repairing the damage of the rattan, the juice in the rattan treasure has dried up, and the hard core inside has also shrunk to the size of a walnut. A rattan treasure like this is useless at all. Instructor Daika saw that Xingchen stayed here for a while, so he also came over and asked Xingchen what he found. Xingchen then told Instructor Daika about his discovery. Instructor Daika felt very sorry when he heard that the vine treasure had been abandoned. I really don't know which force came here to hunt for the treasure, but if the treasure was not found, the sabotage was qualified. But Xingchen also told Instructor Daika that although the vine treasure here is useless now, after 2 or 3 years, when the vine recovers, the vine treasure should be able to grow again. In other words, after 2 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, you can come here to dig treasures. I just don't know who will be lucky enough to use this thing at that time. After hearing what Xingchen said, Instructor Daika naturally wrote down this position. Everyone has observed here for a long time, and it can be regarded as a rest here. Then the instructor ordered to start again. Then there are several hours of search time. During the period, some large vines were also found, but without exception, they were all cut off by people for treasure hunting, and there was no benefit left. Seeing that they passed through many areas where vines might emerge, and they were all taken first, the students in the team became a little impatient. Fortunately, after passing through several areas densely covered with canyons, Stardust made some discoveries. Stardust made a sound to tell Instructor Daika to stop in the nearby valley. He was going to check the situation. Instructor Daika stopped the entire team. There are often large groups of beasts haunting here, so everyone has to get together to act, and everyone can't leave too far. After everyone stopped, Shinchan observed around a few vines. In fact, he was just pretending. After all, whether he could find the vine treasure or not was all due to Rhubarb's efforts. Some students became a little impatient when they saw that Shinchan was observing a few vines with a thickness of 2 feet. After all, Daika had said before that it was difficult for vines of this thickness to bear vines. Why do you look at this kind of vines, and don't grow vine treasures? Aren't you wasting time here? Question mark. That's right, after searching for so long, we still haven't found any sign of Tingbao. Let's go deeper into the mountains to look for it. What is this kid doing? Why did the instructor bring him here? He looks good, and he is not afraid of death, so he came to the mountains to play? I've been here for quite a while, can I go or not? The words of these students are very blunt, saying anything. Shinchan heard it, but it didn't matter. He came here to find things with money, and had little to do with these people, as long as he found good goods. In fact, Shinchan knew where the vine treasure growing here was. Rhubarb had already mentioned that position. However, Shinchan couldn't tell it directly, because others didn't know where it was after looking for it for a long time, and they hacked it everywhere. If you look from above, you will know where the rattan treasure grows and how big it is. There must be something wrong with this kid. Maybe someone will play Stardust's idea. Instructor Daika is not in a hurry. He knows that Stardust has 2 brushes. And it doesn't matter if you can't find it in this treasure hunt. He was just entrusted by favors to come here to join in the fun. Even if he didn't find anything after searching for a few days, he still paid back the favors. However, Instructor Daika saw that Shinchan had been watching here for a long time, so he also came over to inquire about the situation. Stardust then expressed his opinion. This is the place where vine treasures should grow. All the students listened at the side, and they also objected one after another, saying that the vines here are not thick, and there are so many vines scattered around, it is not easy to produce vine treasures. This is true. If dozens of vines grow separately and are crowded together, then no one has enough energy to grow vine treasures. Stardust gave his opinion on this. The vines here seem to be many different vines, but go and find them separately to see if they grow from the same area. The students didn't believe it. They searched around, only to find out that what Shinchan said was right. These vines went around Jiao Nuaz, and finally concentrated in one area, which was located in the small valley. It was also after people searched carefully that they found this small valley, because it was almost filled with various plants. In this valley, many vines gradually merged together, and finally turned into a very thick width. In fact, to put it bluntly, it is the thick vines in the valley. Before they grow out, they give birth to many vines, and grow out separately. This makes the vines outside the valley not very thick. Seeing this situation, all the students believed Shinchan's words. The next step is to look for the vine treasure on the main vine. Instructor Daika knew that Shinchan was very good at this, so he always left everything to Shinchan. Shinchan didn't talk nonsense. He found a position, let Bai Lu get in from the air, and after some searching, Bai Lu found Tingbao at the position given by De Huang. When the image of Tingbao observed by Qiliu came out, the crowd couldn't help cheering. The next step is simple, just take out the rattan treasure here. This valley is not deep, but the vines stacked above the rattan treasure are about 7 or 8 meters high. The 2 sides of Tingbao's location are about 20 to 30 meters away from the edge of the valley. If we dig through the side, we have to open a passage nearly 20 meters long, which is not a short distance. If Dang Dang uses a cleaning vehicle to deal with it, it will take at least 2 hours to get through. Stardust asked Rhubarb to explore the surroundings, and after comparison, he selected a place, excavated from here, and drilled diagonally downwards. He only needed to open a 14-meter-long passage to reach Tingbao's location. Seeing the location chosen by Stardust, Instructor Daika also arranged for manpower to help dump the excavated waste. So Dang Dang drove in the front to dig and clear the vines, and behind them, 3 suspension vehicles lined up in turn to pick up the waste and transport it away. After more than an hour of hard work, the channel was opened. Instructor Daika didn't arrange for anyone to go down to have a look, and directly asked Xingchen to take off the vine treasure. Not long after, Bao was transported out by the suspension vehicle. This is a pretty big rattan treasure. Judging from its appearance, it is even bigger than the previous 3 rattan treasures. If such a rattan treasure is sold, it may cost around 900,000 yuan to get it. But now that Xingchen was hired to find Tingbao, naturally he couldn't get so much. According to the agreement, if Xingchen finds a Tingbao, he can get 300,000 lars in cash. Everyone was very happy when they saw a rattan treasure being dug out. But there are 2 people in the team who both need this thing, but Bao has only one. The solution is to draw lots, and the one who is drawn will be the first to get it, and the one who is left will wait for the second vine treasure. This method is relatively fair, leaving aside factors such as favors and family status. Finally, a few minutes later, one of the students got the vine treasure. Instructor Qiluan's descendants were a bit unlucky, so they could only get the second full treasure. The student who got the vine treasure will have to take the Ting treasure back with him. As soon as this thing is taken out, it will continue to lose energy and must be used as soon as possible. The instructor who led the team arranged for an instructor to go back with the student, and there were 600 guards of the student, both of whom were very powerful monks. The 4 people took a suspension vehicle and set off immediately to return to the Budokan. This way is the original way back, the danger is not too great, and the return speed is faster, there is no need to stop and search, and the risk is smaller. After the student who has arranged the return trip, the remaining trainees and instructors will start looking for the next Fuji treasure. The ensuing search was carried out by 7 hover vehicles and 18 people. Still in the original method, the 7 vehicles were arranged in a scattered manner, with an interval of nearly 100 meters, and moved forward side by side. After searching for another 20 kilometers, it was getting late at this time, and the instructor who led the team wanted to find a suitable place to camp. This side is a relatively deep area in the mountains, and there are often some ferocious beasts haunting it. Even during the previous search, some students were ambushed by fierce beasts. However, the strength of these ferocious beasts is average, and they did not threaten the lives of the students. But the situation will be much more serious at night, as many ferocious beasts like to move at night. Moreover, some ferocious beasts that live in groups will hunt everywhere. Just because there are so many dangers, the campsite at night must be chosen with great care. In the following time, while searching for Tingbao, everyone was also paying attention to the area where they could camp. Coincidentally, the instructor found a canyon and thought it was more suitable for camping. When everyone went in together, they found that there were many thick vines growing here. This canyon is still relatively long, with a length of 600 to 700 meters, and Rhubarb can't explore it all at once. So Xingchen asked Daika to drive to the other side to see if it was possible to find Quochen. After going forward for several hundred meters, Rhubarb found something. In a position in front of him, a bunch of vines were entangled together, and a vine treasure grew out of one of them. Xingchen then asked Instructor Daika to drive the car near that place, ready to step up to take a closer look, and then report the result. However, the instructor who was traveling with him stopped, saying that he had discovered a dangerous situation. Everyone stopped and listened to the teacher's prompt. It turned out that on the small hill next to the mouth of the canyon in front, there were some fierce winged beasts circling and playing here. If the crowd moves a bit more here, it will inevitably disturb the beasts, and the people here will definitely be chased and killed by the beasts. Since there are ferocious beasts in front, the suspension car has to stop first. This car is still a bit noisy, and it will definitely not be able to hide when it gets close. The instructor who led the team brought 2 students forward to investigate the situation, and Xingchen also got out of the car and went to the location of Reading Bao to observe the situation. Instructor Daika parked the suspension car in place, and Instructor Qi Luan stayed behind in the car, so that if those beasts found him, Instructor Qi Luan could drive Xingchen and them. The other students and guards did not move forward, just waiting for the instructor's investigation results. Not long after, the team leader instructor and students returned from investigation. It turned out that on that hill, there were more than 80 Earth-level beasts nesting here. This group of beasts were speckled sheep beasts that could really fly for a short time. It can fly with wings, so this kind of beast has a wide range of activities, and it is a predatory beast, which will actively attack and hunt other animals and beasts. Xingchen also finished observing the location of the vine treasure, indicating that there is indeed a vine treasure here. Here comes a problem. If the rattan treasure is excavated, the noise of the cleaning vehicle will be very loud, and it will definitely move the group of spotted beasts. At that time, this group of instructors and students will have to fight against a large group of spotted winged beasts. According to the estimation of the instructors here, if they work hard, the strength of the manpower here is about the same as that of the opponent. That is to say, at the end of the fight, there are probably not many left on both sides. If this is to defend the family and the country, it is worthwhile to work hard because of the family. But this meeting is only for a rattan treasure, but it is worth hundreds of thousands of lars. If you really hang a few people for this thing, everyone will think it is heartless. This group of people discussed, focusing on how to destroy each other, whether to call another team over to do it together, or go back to the Budokan to find some more people. However, there is a problem with these methods. The people who call may also want the vine treasure. How will this vine treasure be allocated? Is it still decided by drawing lots? Stardust listened for a long time and was a little speechless. Why do you have to kill the other party to get the treasure? Haven't the people here heard of the trick of turning the tiger away from the mountain? So Xingchen told the idea to Instructor Daika. Instructor Daika's eyes lit up after hearing this. There really isn't such a trick here. When the several instructors discussed it, it would be too expensive and uneconomical for the current manpower to overwhelm the other party. However, it is more feasible to allocate most of the people to tease these fierce beasts away. So the team leader instructor divided the people present into 3 groups. The first team is the treasure-digging team, which is composed of 2 instructors, Stardust Daika, and they stay here to dig the disease. The second team consisted of the team leader and instructor leading 10 students and 2 guards to form the main raiding team, responsible for luring away the group of spotted winged beasts. The third team is an insurance team. After the main raiding team lures away the group of beasts, it is composed of Instructor Qi Luan and the remaining 2 students, to ensure that the winged beasts that are not staying behind find out the movement of digging treasure here and come to make trouble. It is also used to lure away other winged beasts left behind in the nest. This is a double insurance, just in case. After discussing well, they began to split up. The team leader instructor took 5 suspension vehicles and the corresponding manpower out from the other side of the canyon, circled around and started attacking the ferocious beasts from the other direction, and then fought and retreated. Gradually lead the herd away. Instructor Qi Luan took 2 students and drove Instructor Daika's suspension car. After waiting for the vehicle to start, he walked towards the beast's nest for a certain distance to defend. After Xingchen's excavation, if there are spotted winged beasts that are alarmed and rush towards them, then the Qi Luan sect will have to step forward and lure them away. If there are too many fierce beasts that can't handle it, Instructor Qi Luan, including Xingchen, will have to run away quickly. Not long after, the herd of beasts on the hill over there was startled, and then dozens of fierce beasts were seen flying into the sky and rushing towards one direction. It's a bit of an exaggeration to say that it rises into the sky. The flying ability of these winged beasts is not that strong, but the scene of dozens of winged beasts dispatching together is quite scary. Fortunately, this time I just want to lure them away, and there is no need to go up and smash them. Seeing that the other side has started to act, Xingchen is also ready to get started. It wasn't Xingchen who did it, it was his younger brothers who did it. It was still Dang Dang who drove the cleaning car to remove the main vines, clattered to pick up the waste, and slid aside to wait for orders. There will be no other suspension vehicles, and there will be nothing to do. The vines here grow in the canyon itself. This canyon is relatively large and deep, so these vines did not fill the canyon. This has an advantage, that is, the outer vines protecting Tingbao are not thick, and you only need to clear away the vines less than 7 meters away to reach the location of Tingbao. The 7-meter deep vines also include the tender vines more than 1 meter deep in the outer layer, so it can be said that the difficulty of digging is relatively low. Xingdest asked Rhubarb to do the math, and it took about half an hour to dig the treasure in total. As soon as it was turned on here, the noise spread out. However, there were no wingshi beasts on the hill there, which made Instructor Daika and Qiluan heave a sigh of relief. When Dongdong's side was cleared to a depth of about 3 meters, 2 winged beasts suddenly crawled out of the hill over there. Probably because the noise here was too loud, which woke up the winged beast sleeping in the nest, so it crawled out to find the pump. The source of the noise on Stardust's side is obvious, so Shizing spread his wings and came straight here with 2 wings. This needs to be dealt with by Instructor Qiluan. These 2 Ishi beasts who just came out of the nest are about the strength of the first and second layers of the earth level. The students cooperated and beheaded the 2 winged beasts in a short time. Destroying the opponent is naturally a good thing, but when the 2 winged beasts were about to die, they screamed, and nearly 10 more winged beasts came over. There's no way around this, Instructor Diluan still has to step forward to deal with it. When there are too many wingshi beasts, it becomes a bit difficult to deal with. Often when you are about to kill one of them, the other ones will step forward to interrupt the move. After going back and forth like this, they stalemate. Those wingshi beasts also had some brains, seeing that they couldn't take down the 3 people here, they neighed again, which meant they wanted to shake the beasts over again. Seeing this situation, Xingchen had no other choice but to let Dang Dang speed up the progress. At this moment, Dang Dang has cleared a little more than 5 meters deep, but in deeper places, the vines there are thicker and harder. Seeing that it will take at least 10 minutes to finish the work here, Instructor Daika can't sit still. Because 7 or 8 winged beasts crawled out of the nest, and then flew towards the side. The original 8 or 9 wingshi beasts made it difficult for Instructor Qiluan to deal with, but now there are 7 or 8 more. I am afraid that they will be defeated in a short time. Instructor Daika naturally doesn't want this to happen. So he also rushed forward to help his upper arms. With the help of Instructor Daika, even though there were a few more winged beasts, the situation did not turn bad. Xingchen was at the excavation position of Tingbao, watching the excavation situation, and at the same time paying attention to the battle situation on Instructor Daika's side. If you don't pay attention, if these 2 are defeated, Xingchen will also have to run away quickly. Moreover, these winged beasts can fly, and if 1 or 2 of them are missed, Xingchen will have to deal with it by himself. As the saying goes, good spirits don't work and bad spirits do. Seeing that Dang Dang was about to clear a way to the position of Tingbao, a winged beast turned around. For some reason, it saw Xingchen's side, and then immediately gave up the attack on Daika and the others. Rushed towards Stardust. Alright, get ready to go. Stardust pulled out the saber that Daika lent him from behind, stepped forward a few steps, and guarded in front of Dongdong's excavation area. Flying over is the first level strength of the common wing she beast. But Xingchen is only a 9th level human level strength, or a 1st level earth level strength, and he is just a rookie. This is still a bit dangerous for a fierce beast that is slightly stronger than him. Moreover, this is the wingshi beast, which has fleshy wings and can fly in the air, so it is quite difficult to deal with. On the side of Instructor Qiluan, about a dozen wingshi beasts flew up and down, pounced down on the 2 instructors and 2 students from time to time. It looks dangerous, but with the support of Instructor Daika, the front line is considered stable, and from time to time, under the cover of Instructor Daika, Instructor Qiluan can still threaten some swanchy beasts and injure a soldier. As for the two students, under the siege of many winged beasts, they can only play a restraining role, and they need the instructor's help from time to time. Under such circumstances, it is unrealistic to ask Xingqian to support him there. Here, Xingqian can only do it himself. The speed of the winged she-beast was very fast, and after a few seconds, it flew to the sky above Xingqian. However, being able to fly with wings is a strength, but it is also a weakness under the constraints of the ground. The canyon here is narrower than that of Instructor Qiluan. If the winged she-beast wants to attack Stardust downwards, it can only attack from a few directions. In this way, it would be easier for Stardust to defend. This winged beast pounced down from time to time, motivating Xingqian to attack, trying to expose him. But Xingqian is not in a hurry to fight it. This is the area where Dang Dang clears the vines, but this time Dang Dang they are all deep in the vines, only a small part of the suspended vehicle is exposed. It's not afraid of the beast's destruction. Where Xingqian is currently standing, the terrain is uneven because of the vines stretching everywhere, which also allows Xingqian to run and hide in it. But this situation didn't last long, and the winged beast soon got tired of this attack method that couldn't hit the opponent. The reason why the winged she-beast is called this is because it has fleshy wings and can fly, and secondly, it is also a fierce beast that can move and run on the ground. This winged beast couldn't do anything to Xingqian in space, so it jumped to the ground and ran towards Xingqian. Seeing this situation, Xingqian was not in a hurry. If this winged she-beast only moved in the air, it would be difficult for Stardust to attack it. Now this thing has come down to the ground by itself, so it can't help but run away. Stardust had taken a good look at the surrounding terrain before. Because the vines grow randomly here, there are many positions between the bars to dodge. At this moment, the winged she-beast rushed towards him, and Xingqian hid in a small space behind him. The winged she-beast naturally moved forward following the retreat of Xingqian's figure, and stretched out its head to expose its sharp fangs to bite. This guy's neck and head should be considered very long, and Xingqian retreated quite deeply between the vines, and this winged she-beast was still about to bite Xingqian's arm. However, the space Xingdust chose has an advantage, that is, the four-way connection is well developed, there is a space on the side of Xingdust to hide in, and this space can also lead to the outside. Xingqian dodged to avoid the bite of the winged she-beast, and came outside from the gap on the side. Winged she-beast is still looking for traces of Stardust inside with its head stretched out. It has to be said that this thing is a bit stupid. After Xingqian came out and stepped on the plant branches, there was some sound. The winged beast heard it and hurriedly withdrew, but Xingqian took advantage of the terrain and took advantage of this opportunity. He immediately raised his hand and waved his knife like this. Chop, immediately cut off half of the winged she-beast's arm. Winged she-beast suffered the pain and dodged backwards desperately, and then wanted to fly to Kong Chen with its lotus wings. But with the arm attached to the fleshy wing, half of the arm will be lost, so how can it fly? So this struggle can only fall to the ground not far away. As the saying goes, taking advantage of its illness to kill it, Xingqian approached it from the side of the winged she-beast's injured arm, planning to find another opportunity to hit it hard. Winged she-beast also felt that the situation was not right, and immediately turned around and roared at Xingqian, threatening it from time to time, trying to delay its escape. Xingqian was looking for an opportunity to make a move here, but he slipped his hand over there. When Xingqian was dealing with the she-beast, he happened to be nearby, and now the winged she-beast was concentrating on dealing with Xingqian, so he had the opportunity to pounce directly from behind, like a face-hugging monster, and directly ate its soft feet, head and neck hugged the winged she-beast. Those few soft feet were still beating around the eyes, mouth and nose of the winged she-beast, which stunned the winged she-beast for a while. It had never seen such an attack method. The winged she-beast was embraced by Bai Lu, and shook its head anxiously, trying to shake Bai Lu off, and even grabbed Bai Lu with its uninjured arm, trying to tear it off. If you give it some time, it will be over soon. But now Xingqian is still beside him, seeing that the swaying move has temporarily controlled the she-beast. Xingqian immediately stepped forward, and slashed fiercely between the Ishi beast's chest and abdomen. You can't strike the head, because Ba Lu is still holding the head of the winged beast. Xingqian's knife was relatively ruthless, directly splitting most of the winged beast's body. Wingshi beast Dan Green's blood gushed out immediately. Of course it doesn't matter if it bleeds or not, this guy's vitality is not that strong, it can still survive if it is cut off. 0. After being slashed by Xingqian like this, the Wingshi beast stopped roaring, and fell limply on the ground, twitched a few times and then became silent. Xingqian yelled Bei Lu, and then Bei Lu jumped off the head and face of Jishi beast. After hugging for a while, 2 of the 8 soft feet were broken by the winged beast. But it doesn't matter, anyway, when I go back to Stardust, I will replace the whole body of my little brothers with new accessories. Seeing that the Wingshi beast didn't move, Xingqian was still a little worried, so he stepped forward and chopped off the Wingshi beast's head, and then stopped. After solving this problem, Xingqian turned around and took a few steps up to a higher place, revealing his figure so that Instructor Daika could see him. This was to reassure the other party that nothing happened on his side. Instructor Qiluan originally found a winged beast coming towards Xingqian, and he was a little anxious. Instructor Daika also arranged for a student to come to Xingqian to help. However, under the cover of the instructors, the student rushed out several times and was repelled several times, but he still failed to break through the blockade of the winged beast. And he couldn't come to Stardust. However, seeing that Xingqian was fine, Instructor Daika was relieved a lot, and began to concentrate on dealing with the Wingshi beast here. Xingqian killed a Wingshi beast, and reported to the Instructor Daika that it was safe. Thinking that there was no danger, he turned around to supervise the sales and quickly got it out according to the Rattan treasure. But before Xingqian could make arrangements, Instructor Daika loudly reminded Xingqian to be careful, and another winged beast passed by. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.